Shooting is winding down on the set of Son of the Pink Panther. Until now, the focus of the production team has been to capture images on film. Sounds are captured too, but often the quality of the audio doesn't match the picture. As literally thousands of feet of film are edited into their final scenes, the immense challenge of refining, replacing, and often creating the soundtracks fall on the shoulders of the sound design team.
We've become known as the fixing it in post people. We can redo the dialogue, we can do the effects, we can do almost anything. What your job basically is to make it all seem like it's all really happening at that time.
Supervising sound editor on Son of the Pink Panther, Kay Rose has been a respected member of Hollywood's film community for nearly 50 years. Kay was the first woman to receive the Academy Award for Sound Effects Editing for her work on the 1984 release, The River. Her other films include Ordinary People, The Prince of Tides, and On Golden Pond. As supervising sound editor, Kay is responsible for the overall audio design and a staff of 30 that brings those sounds to the big screen.
Okay, that's easy.
One of those highly specialized individuals is sound effects editor Mark Mangini. Mark and his company Weddington Productions are responsible for creating, designing, and editing the sound effects on Son of the Pink Panther.
Tight quarters, huh?
If you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Trek 1, 4, or 5, Inner Space, or Aladdin, then you've heard Mark Mangini's award-winning work.
That's pretty good, so we like that. Most people may not know that the microphone that's there on the set as they're filming isn't picking up all the sounds that you hear when you're in the theater when you see the finished product. Although that's certainly the sound editor's job, is to create that illusion. So we will analyze the soundtrack for what's missing and determine how to best finish it. 313. Scene number 313 is Omar's Cafe. Okay, I've now set up a scene, and I'm now, in sequential order, I'm going to decide what sounds we need to put in this scene. Once we've run the picture, we create a list. From that list, we begin to delegate responsibility, and we compartmentalize sound. There's what we call Foley, which is the recording of footsteps and incidental props and movement. ADR and Walla, which is the re-recording of dialogue and group ambiences, if you will, or crowd sounds specific to the picture that we don't have. Then there will be sound effects, you know, the very obvious ones being things like gunshots and door closes and car skids and things like that. Those sounds always need to be augmented.
I do the either. I could do them both, really, because the other guy's just going...
Dialogue is the basis of any film. ADR, or automated dialogue replacement, is the process for correcting or improving it. For this raucous scene in the Casbah, dialogue supervisor Vicki Sampson directs voice artists in an ADR or looping session. Here on a dubbing stage at Warner Hollywood Studios, 14 people recreate the background noise of dozens of revelers.
A lot of ADR is group looping, which is done with the characters in the background of a scene that are instructed on the set not to speak so that they can have clean tracks for their main actors.
I'm going to kill you. Follow me.
Here, Vicki is using group ADR to add authenticity to exotic locales.
In the Casbah scene in Pink Panther, they're in Lugash, so it's an imaginary city. So we had a couple of Arabic-speaking men, a couple of French-speaking women, and then we had like 4 others who could replicate Arabicese, and once it's all thrown in there together, it can sound like it was supposed to sound.
ADR is also frequently used for individual dialogue replacement. It's not uncommon to re-record every word a character says.
dark women with blue eyes and full red lips, who smell like night blooming jasmine and taste like a warm mango.
Wormy mango.
Warm mango? I should be saying worm. That's what I should do, don't you think? Worm mango, yes, we gotta do one.
Sometimes a director wants to change performance of an actor. Sometimes they want to revoice, use a whole different voice than the original actor. Yeah, it's weird when you play them all back together and see a flow of things.
And taste like a warm mango.
Worm mango, yes.
We looped the Deborah Ferrantino scene because in the when they did that take, his voice was so projected and hers was so soft that the director was concerned that the balances would be off.
Here we go. Take 14, X703.
Here we go, Tom. Warm mango? Is that a sync on that?
Looping is a very hard phase of this sound process because you're trying to recreate a performance that was done to other actors on a bare stage with the headphones on with beeps coming at you, and you have to watch your mouth, and a lot of actors haven't seen themselves before on the screen.
Warm mango?
Why don't you print them both and I'll just play with them?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like putting together a big puzzle and snipping out the little pieces you don't want and putting in the pieces that you don't notice. And it's a very unrecognized phase of sound work because if you do it well, you don't notice it. And you shouldn't notice it. It should just be as if that was the way it was recorded on the set.
Who smell like night blooming jasmine and taste like a warm mango.
Warm mango?
And honey.
Dialogue replacement allows audiences to hear the actors as clearly as they see them. But some of the most involved wizardry of the audio process begins when the actors stop talking. Coming up next, the audio team breaks out its best efforts to give the Casbah scene a real punch. King Kong was released in 1933. Feature-length talking pictures had only been around for 6 years. Yet this groundbreaking fantasy epic virtually wrote the book on sound effects. The audio work was staggering, centered around a make-believe Kong and primeval beasts. All of these sounds had to be made from scratch. A daunting task that rested on the shoulders of RKO's new head of sound effects, Murray Spivak.
I was very happy with the way King Kong turned out because it was a tremendous challenge, and I hadn't the slightest idea what I was going to do with it.
What made Murray's work on King Kong possible was the development of re-recording technology. Prior to that time, they had to record the sound live.
I had to make all of these sounds simultaneously when they were shooting a picture. We only had one soundtrack, and all the sound had to be done at the same time.
By the time King Kong was in production, Murray had access to portable audio machines that recorded sound on film. Having the freedom to take these devices into the field, pre-record a roaring lion, then re-record it at the studio while altering its pitch, allowed Murray to create King Kong's ferocious growl.
I found that if I lowered an octave, it would be at half speed. Then I took a tiger roar, and then I put that backwards against the lion roar. You couldn't detect what it was, and we knew there was no bass singer that could sing that low, so I knew that I was on the right track.
Following Murray Spivak's inspired work, sound re-recording and synchronization techniques continued to evolve. Today, just as dialogue is re-recorded or altered, footsteps, breaking glass, even a belly dancer's rattling chains can be reproduced and manipulated through a technique called Foley. A Foley stage is a recording studio outfitted specifically to record hundreds of movie sounds in a controlled environment with close-up microphones. Even if a noise recorded on the set is adequate, it can usually be improved.
It started out with mainly replacing footsteps or adding a few specific props here and there, maybe a crash or something like that. Now, like, you virtually replace or re-record nearly every single sound in the movie. We'll sweeten the table crashes there on Channel 15.
On Channel 15.
Foley supervisor Chris Flick collaborates with Foley artists Ellen Hewer and Kevin Bartnoff to come up with more than 24 different sounds for the Casbah scene alone.
Why don't you stay with the cloth that he'll put around the guy's neck.
Okay.
And I'll stay with his hood.
It's a lot easier to record it on the Foley stage because the Foley artists or Foley walkers can actually perform the prop movements right along with the actor or actress on the screen.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Cool. It's pretty close.
For one take.
Yeah. Hey, go back here. We sweeten that? Should we add some glass breaks?
I'm in the light there.
Yeah, some glass breaks would be good.
Okay.
Some of the things we specifically wanted to highlight were the sort of the domino effect of Clouseau Jr. cascading into everybody at the bar and all the tumbling and body falls. All of the plates that were on the tables and all the drinks and all the different sounds that could be created that way that would help the humor of the scene. I mean, the scene is funny to begin with. It has that sort of slapstick, broad humor. And then the sound effects can really enhance it by punching up certain impacts and highlights of that.
While Foley can recreate thousands of highly specialized sounds in the confines of a stage, audio designers must often venture far and wide to capture the sounds they need.
I said stop!
This scene calls for a wheezing diesel Renault. Sound technician Ezra Dweck is recreating that noise on a stage of somewhat bigger proportions, the Southern California desert.
What I'm recording here, this interior stuff, will sort of be used to smooth out the interior car shots. A lot of times on the set,
I think
the cars are being towed along with the camera car anyway, so there is no engine sound.
Ezra's recording of this Jetta doubling as the Renault in Pink Panther includes interiors, exteriors, practically every sound an automobile can make.
Accelerate, maybe downshift and hit the accelerator when you go by.
Okay.
Something to spice it up and make it a little more interesting. The main concern on the set isn't always to get the best sound effects because they know that they can send someone like me out later to do it. I dare say that's the best one yet.
Some sounds can be recorded on an indoor stage, and some under the blazing desert sun. But a good deal of cinema sound effects are designed on computer by the sound effects editor.
That's better.
When we return, Mark Mangini turns common sounds into magical special effects.
That's not bad either.